All right, so I was excited to see when I saw Hiline started offering cold brew. I quickly ordered some, and I actually haven't tried Starbucks homemade cold brew. So we're gonna pit these against each other and see which one comes out on top. I love cold brew. I had to make it by myself where it's really involved and messy, and so I'm hoping that this ends up being less messy. So you can already see the difference. Starbucks has the box. Hiline, Gramercy Park cold brews in the Mylar packet. We open it up, you see the pouches in there. And what I've done so that we can see, this actually has to steep for a full day, so we're gonna, I've labeled each of these individual things so that they're hanging out of my fridge. When we pull them out, we know which is which. All right, so the instructions say that you're supposed to use 2 with 32 ounces, but because I'm gonna be making double the amount, I'm just gonna use 1 and 16 ounces. So it says to put one of those, and I'm going to pour in 2 cups. Let's see how we are on that. Right, a little bit more. All right, that's about 2 cups there. And we're going to open up the Starbucks one. Oh, fancy. I guess they're doing kind of what Hiline did, just 2 at a time. And it says to open here. So we're going to drop that in. Starbucks one. Pour the rest of our 2 cups in here. Now, I'm going to take and use the dull end of the knife to just get that under the water and make sure that it's absorbing everything. Same thing here on this side. Let's see. So each of these talk about steeping it in the fridge for 24 hours, then later adding another cup and a half per pack, or 3 cups total. So it's going to be a pack and a half, or a cup and a half when I do that one, the Starbucks one. And the Hiline says that you can add 10 to 16 ounces of water after the fact, so that'll be roughly 5 ounces to 1 cup later. So we're going to seal these off. We're going to go put them in the fridge. We're going to see how these are tomorrow. I'm going to give it kind of a stir. Make sure that they're really nice and submerged. Everything's looking good. And we'll be back tomorrow. All right, so we're 24 hours into our cold brew test. We've got our Starbucks and we've got the Hiline, the Gramercy Park Hiline cold brew versus the Starbucks. What do they call this? Nariño 70. Anyway, so what we're gonna do is first we're gonna take out the pitcher packs. It's impossible to get that out. Maybe I'll have to use another thing like a fork. That's funny. All right, so those little pinchers will not work, the little tongs. It's kind of a little bit of a pain to get out, I guess. But I'm also using a gigantic container, so that probably isn't helping either. So I'm gonna let that, let's see if I can let that kind of do its thing. And drip out the rest of the coffee. And I'm gonna open up the Starbucks one and pull this one out. I guess I'm a little scared that the bag is going to rupture, although neither of them did. They both look like they're pretty tough bags. All right, so I'm going to let that just sit for a second, drain out into there. All right, so let's see that. Do it. I guess if it was, you might want to come back and check this later, but for tonight, because it's late and I'm making a video, just drop it in here. Drop it in here. We might lose a few drops, but we'll go with it. Okay, so what do we see so far? I may have poured a little more water in the Hiline one to begin with. You may notice that Hiline's a little bit taller. Just at the outside, it looks like the Starbucks is a little darker and the Hiline is not as dark. So what they say is that into this, we're gonna pour the Hiline because we're doing half the amount. I'm gonna put in 1 cup. So you could put between 5 and 8 ounces, so I'm going to do about 7.5 here, just to go for it. And for the Starbucks, I'm putting in 1.5 cups because it normally says to put in 3 cups. So when you do a cold brew, my understanding is that it essentially is turning into a coffee concentrate. And so by diluting it, either you can dilute it like this, or if you pour it over ice, that naturally dilutes it. So we're going to do this a couple of different ways. One, I'm going to pour just a little bit of the Hiline into a cup, just a taste, and a little bit of the Starbucks. And then, so I'm going to taste it without cream and sugar, and then with cream and sugar, because that's what I like. So, Hiline, let's give it a shot. First aroma, because it's an iced coffee, there isn't a lot of aroma that comes off like a hot cup, but I'm going to give this a taste. That is really smooth. You know, I don't really like acidic coffee, and this is not acidic at all. This is really smooth. This is really good, and it's almost doesn't even need cream and sugar based on that taste. Let's try this Starbucks. Wow. So that's got a much different flavor profile. That is a lot more woody or smoky, whereas the Gramercy Park is very smooth and rounded out. So let's try both of these. You know, I like both of those. Let me try and see what happens with cream and sugar. I like using the Natural Bliss because it's just got some really basic stuff. Milk, cream, and sugar, really the only ingredients. Probably hard to gauge how much to put in here. All right, so let's see. Wow, so the Hiline is again really smooth, but for some reason it's interesting with the cream and sugar. It kind of brings out a little bit of the boldness or richness of it, which isn't as prominent when I'm just drinking it by itself. Starbucks. So the Starbucks almost tastes a little bit weak with that. I think these are both really different. If you're looking for kind of a smoky, woody taste, the Starbucks seems to have more of that, and if you're looking for smooth, the Hiline seems to have that. I like the Hiline actually when I put cream and sugar in there. I like the Hiline better than I do the Starbucks one. By itself, the Starbucks is pretty good. I like it. It's a different flavor profile, but with cream and sugar, I like the. I actually prefer the Hiline. It seems like most of their stuff ends up being a really great alternative to some of the other kind of big box stuff. So that's a review. Give it a shot. Both of these are great. I think good alternatives to the whole mess that comes to doing it yourself, with grinding it and putting it in a bucket and then straining all of it. These pitcher packs are certainly convenient. The one thing I will say is I like the idea that the Hiline one can be resealed. You can force the air out and reseal it, versus the Starbucks Cold Brew is not. So best of luck to you. Let me know what you think if you try them.